Hey everybody out there, this is Ronnie Bincer, your Hangout helper, helping you with TNT BootCamp. That's what we're doing today. We've been doing a series of training on tools and techniques that you could use in Google Plus to get the most out of this wonderful place, to connect with influencers and to become one. And so what we've been doing earlier is we talked about specific tools that you would go through to help identify influencers, that you could track your activity and things like that. Then we shifted into some of the influencers, or talking with some of the influencers that we know, and bringing them into the show. And today we're featuring Martin Shervington. We'll get to him in a moment. And we're talking about some of the things that the influencers do, as well as how people interact with them, so that you can get a feel for it from both sides. So I'd like to pass this over to my wonderful co-host, Christine DeGraff.
Hello, thank you, Ronnie. Yeah, we're excited today to have Martin here, especially he just launched a new campaign, Discover Google Plus, today, and we want to talk to him about some of these initiatives that he's doing, some of the crafty cooking, the Rubik's campaign, the Canva campaign, his new neighborhoods initiative, and we're going to do it all in 30 minutes, so we better get started. So Martin, can you tell us, just to get us started, because the past several shows we've asked influencers, what is it that people do that, to try to connect with you that tends to work?
Okay. Hello, Ronnie and Christine. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. So I'll give you an example of one person that reached out to me, and this was the best thing that anyone could ever have done, and the amount of effort that went into it. It was a lady named Amy Harrison, and she does content marketing and is funny. She makes it amusing. And so she reached out to me. I'll tell more of the backstory now. Nobody knows this. She reached out by email, and we had a quick conversation, and I watched a couple of videos, and I went back to her and said, "You're awesome." I said, "This is really, really cool." And it was just a really nice approach. She wasn't asking me to do anything, and I said, "I'd like to interview you." But I said, "Go off and have a think." And she said, "I tell you what, leave it with me." And I guessed that she was going to create a video. And at some point, I'll go back to the emails and look at all the stages as to what happened. But she created a video that was funny, 3 minutes long, and at the end of it, talked about reaching out to me, and because she wanted to talk about Google+. Now, I've arranged an interview, and that's coming up then in the next week. Now, this is the thing about I know that people won't like the phrase, but I put a post out which was based on a Guy Kawasaki article from years ago about sucking up. And I don't like the phrase sucking up. I don't think it's a particularly nice phrase. But the idea is that if you want to get somebody's attention, you've got to do something that makes it about them. And Amy did the most elegant sucking up that you could ever do by creating a video and having it at the end. And it's content for her, but it's part of the story. What she's now doing it, and then what happens is I interview her, and then she put that on the blog post, and then she'll maybe make another video about how she got in touch. And at the moment, she's pretty new to Google+, a few hundred people in the circles, and I'm telling everybody about her. So she's going to be awesome on here. People already love her. So if you want to know, what works, is put some effort in. If you really want attention, because I'm running around. Look, we spent the first 2 minutes of the show talking about somebody that I think does it well. Another person, Robert Ryan. He and I worked together, and we created an infographic. And it wasn't exactly, that's collaborative work. It's more. That was, I always say, but Robert, there was no sucking up. It just worked. He didn't do that pre-stage. We'd already spoken on threads and whatever, and that way you come together. So I think one of the things that does work is to make it about the person whose attention you want. And I've done this with Chris Brogan. I've done this with Guy Kawasaki. I've put campaigns on for them from years. This is one writer campaign for Guy's book Ape. That's back in January 2013. I did a lot of work in order for him to know that I valued him and valued what he was doing and wanted to amplify that story. So, same with Chris. I did the FreeQuest campaign recently to make him feel that we had a crew of people that were supporting the launch of his new book. So I do the same thing, which is put some effort in to really support it and spend time on it. And I say not just effort; it's actually you want finger up. But I've had to get the quality up of the stuff that I do consistently because Google Plus has become busier and it's harder to get attention. So whether it's the graphics or the video design, like Amy's been doing, that does help if you put more effort in. There we go, Ronnie. You had your finger up.
Yeah. Do you think it helped that Amy has a UK-ish accent and she's a comedian? So there's two areas of connection between you that helped her in the process of connecting with you.
I think that the comedy bit in particular, she's funny. But I connected, like Tim Washer, and I connected, and he's another chap that does comedy and works for a large organisation doing some corporate stuff around that. The humour helps to connect. You know, if you find the people that have got a similar humour, then it's usually that you're going to get on. You can bounce back and forth. So I think that helps. The accent, she's a Brit, but that wasn't the thing that connected us. You know, because on here, you connect with anybody.
Well, I've made fun of her for a while because of the biscuits versus cookies and cookie crumbs and.
You know of her beforehand?
Oh yeah, and I interviewed her when we were at South by Southwest. You didn't see that?
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll have to have a chat about that later. But anyways, so let me ask from the other angle. Are there things that people have done that really don't work for you? In other words, they're kind of really bothersome to you when they're trying to reach out to you. They're trying to get your attention as an influencer. What is it that maybe you can help us understand what not to do?
So one of the things, as you've been on Google Plus for a while, as you get busier, you get a lot of notifications. And I remember in the early days when you were waiting for it to go red, and you may even click the notifications thing, and you're like, oh, and then you, nice, and then they're coming, yes, I've got a note, and then you look, and it's like somebody adds me to circles. After a while, I mean, Mark Traphagen put a post out, which that's the first time I really connected with him, which is it's like the Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings sometimes. It's like, and it's tough. Now, I'm going to explain how I got my notification set up to explain why sometimes it's a challenge. Anyone who plus mentions my name, it goes into my email, and I filter it through the social tab on email. That's just how it is. So if you plus mention me, I will get that, and I will then either that way or, because sometimes there's a lot of notifications, I'll go and see what's been said. So somebody's calling me into a room. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Right. And I go in and look. Now, if somebody just has pinged me into it to say stuff that doesn't ask me anything, it doesn't require me, they just are plussing my name for the sake of it, then I turn up and go, oh, okay, and then disappear again. And that's something, if people do it too often, then you're like, guys, just go, oh, yeah, well, and you just feel that it's not necessarily the way that you want to connect. And I rarely mute people. Occasionally I mute people, but it just seems that if you use the plus mention purposefully and you want, you know, there's a real, but that's a good way. And if you're recommending people's content, that's a good thing as well. You know, plus mention, say, hey, you know, go and check out this article, and then we know that's there. You know, that there's you know, sort of a referral happening.
So you're not talking about hat tips where we give credit. So say if I'm sharing something of yours, I'll say, you know, hat tip Martin Shervington or via Martin Shervington. You're talking about a post. It's like, you know, this is great, and then plus mention Martin, Ronnie, you know, David Amerlin, millions of people.
I'm not actually. I'm more looking at the comments. I mean, sometimes, so we can comment on that one as well. What I'm really talking about, I give the example. I'm not gonna mention who, but somebody changed the event name, and they said, "Oh, I've got an event coming up with us, Martin Shervington, and I've just changed the event name." And they've done it about 3 or 4 times on the thread earlier, and so I turn up, and it's like, okay, and I was like, I don't know if I need to know that. I don't know if you need to plus mention me into that, if it's purposeful, or whether it's just over the top. And I think the same with long plus mention posts, as they tend to be. In the early days, I used to write stories, and they were a lot to write, and it's a way of trying to connect with people and saying we had this conversation and that. And I think it's useful. I don't think we're taking that away from people's. You know, I think that's a good thing to do, and I think that everybody's been here for a while. Certainly I do. I look and go, yeah, you're putting some effort in. You're trying to connect and do that. When you've got a list of just plus mentions at the bottom of a post, I think it's probably better to build a circle and to ask those people, would you like to receive notifications? Because it's the same process, and then you can notify those people by email. So I think that just, you know, plus mention for the sake of it without relating the content, it's probably not the best way to make somebody feel that they want your attention.
It's kind of like little kid on the playground. They're like, "Mom, look at me, Mom, 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 Mom," and then after a while, you just tune them out.
Yeah.
So Maggie's pointing out that the mute button is your friend.
It can, but the problem is if you mute somebody, then when it is important, they can't get your attention. Right. But sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes it's really useful just to mute people you don't know. But it's just a shame that if there's just a slight adjustment, and I fed back to the person that was kept on plus mentioning me because they didn't know, and I just said, look, just do it when you want me to turn up and you want me to engage. That's really cool, and I will. At any time I see my name plus mentioned, I'll be there. I mean, that's one of the things that I think, the great thing about Google Plus is that people will just move and go around, and do our best. So, I think use it, but I don't tend to use it that often. Occasionally.
Okay, so
oh, go ahead, Ronnie.
I was going to say, so as a quick summary on that, plus mentioning an influencer's name just for the sake of mentioning their name isn't necessarily beneficial. But if you do want to get their attention for a specific reason, so they have a reason to answer, then go for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was summing it up like that. Yeah, nice summary. Nice summary.
So, Christine.
I think we should talk about the importance of building your community on Google Plus and what that means and how Martin has been building his community, many communities, and why.
Okay. So Martin, before you get too far into it, can you tell us what you think community is?
So communities, people coming together around something. That's what how I see it. Prior to December 2012, there was a community on Google Plus before communities launched. So this concept's been around, and we all used to use circles a lot. And in fact, a lot of communities were seeded by circles that have been created. So when you come to Google Plus communities, the idea is that then the attention that was in the stream, the attention that was just public, was then siphoned off either into public communities about niche interest groups or people just come together, or in the private. So it depends which way we want to look at it and which way we want to approach community as to where we go. Because private communities may be for conversation, and I use those. In fact, I've got lots of different private communities set up that are for business verticals in Plus Your Business. So we have different people in different ones that are working on different sections. And this is something I'm going to talk more about. Well, I can talk more about that. We're running departments, essentially using those private communities. Different people can access that information. Then with the public communities, there are themes. So we're Plus Your Life, it's very much personal development and inspiration. And at the moment, it's a little quieter than it was because my attention has been on getting everything together for Plus Your Business and the Academy, and I know you mentioned about neighborhoods. So what that does is you've got 10,000 people in the community, and the difficulty is that with the notification system, as it is, if people switch off notifications, or if it's automatically switched off at a certain size of community, which it is, then the only chance people see the content is either in the stream, or if you plus mention people, or if they go to the community. And this means that you by understanding the system, and if you want to be posting, you want people's attention, you have to look at what is the purpose behind posting. Do you want to start a conversation? Who do you want to have with that conversation? What is the intent that you've got behind it? So one of the things that we've done is set up we're going to be launching the neighborhood soon, but the concept is there, where we're bringing people together essentially in curated pages of up to 120, 150 neighborhoods that allow the members of the Plus Your Business community to have differentiated groupings of people. So the idea is a neighborhood, and then lots of neighborhoods come together, and that forms the community. So that's where we're going, because it's trying to solve what I perceive to be a challenge, that with the notifications switched off, you can't get people's attention. So what we're looking at is building circles whereby the agreement of being part of the neighborhood is that people will be in touch and want to be in touch and want to be hanging out and wanting to have a closer knit micro community, neighborhood. That's what we're looking at.
Fascinating. I like it. So the idea of the importance of building community one way to summarize that is it helps your communication method. But what other things does community do from your experience?
Well, that's the systems side. I mean, I've started with the systems. I mean, then you get to the culture, is that people feel they belong. There's a shared language, a shared understanding. With Plus Your Life, I think we've watched about 80 TED Talks. And I think a lot of people have seen many of them. So when you have the same information, you start to see the world from particular angles. And if you haven't got that information, then you can't have a conversation about that content. So one of the things is a shared model of the world. And what we're doing with Plus Your Business is there's certain approaches, like what we're talking about here about building communities, using circles to help communication, that when people start to get on the same page, you begin to utilize the platform in a similar way. But then you've got the conversations, and then you've got the individuals, the behaviors that you have. And this is how I always look at things, as system, culture, behaviors, and then the psychology. And people's behaviors are, the culture's how we do things, and then the behavior is how I do things within that cultural context. So people have different roles. So people may be moderators, they may be members, they may be initiators, they may be people that are supporting. And the thing, because of where communities started, they started in the stream, prior to the siphoned off areas of attention. The community extends out beyond, and there's many people that will never do Google Plus business stuff, and yet they're part of it. And I see people like Tisha, who's just wonderful because they're there, and I know they're supporting everything that's going on with the community, even though they're not business per se. So this is why I think that seeing this sort of more global view of what community is good if you've got a profile. If you're a page, it's harder to build a community around a page, although there are. I mean one our site is Helmet City. They're great because they've been building the page and they've been a client of mine. So they've got the ability to hold people's attention and make them feel special. And I think that's the thing, is that people feel part of it. And that's where the psychology starts to come in, is that you're enabling people to belong and for them to know how things are done around here, and then to almost feel positive about being there. And that's what a lot of what I do, and it's a positive learning experience. That's what I want to give people, because if we do it that way, then I enjoy it because I'm constantly having to come up with new ideas. Also learning the algorithm within Google Plus, learning about the algorithm as it goes into search, and sharing that knowledge, and that then becomes another understanding, shared language within the community.
I love the idea of the neighborhood. I mean, if you think about, your own neighborhoods, for real, in real life, they are made of people and they are made of businesses. And, it's not just businesses. A lot of times I think that we think on here, well, someone will say, well, I'm not here for business, so I have no interest. But, a neighborhood, you support your people in your neighborhood, your businesses, and all of you working together is what makes it, something unique or special. So I'm really interested to see how that turns out.
So I'm going to bring up a couple comments. One's from Davey Bates on the YouTube side saying, he's talking about 6 degrees of separations. This is the concept of how a lot of people are anybody in the world is simply separated by possibly up to 6.
I think it's 3 now.
I'd say it's probably nearer 3, yeah.
Okay, and then here's another one from Lee. Lee is pointing out that neighborhoods with a big U in them are an excellent way of using Hangouts for both personal and business use. What do you think on that, Martin?
I agree, and Lee's been interested in a London one. I can tell you now, Lee, we are going to be setting up a London one, and it's going to be Jim Banks. I think it's going to be doing that. So yeah, and Hangouts, it will bridge the divide. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, because some of the neighborhoods are going to be location-based, and some are going to be niche-based, and then some will be e-commerce type, like shopping mall type ideas that we're playing with. So yeah.
So the ability to connect people and on a common theme is one of the hallmarks from my experience with communities, because you know that you're there with a similar interest, like you're saying, but also the experience when you grow with that community and they have had the same experience, like you're saying, many people have watched TED Talks together. Yeah. That just really, really deepens that relationship. Have you seen much of this online community concept moving into real life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's now the maturity's coming with Google Plus much more, and I think we're really early days still, but we're seeing people like this. Like I met Christine at the South by Social Media Marketing World Conference, and if I look at all of the other people I met, and Mia and Dustin and so on, and that brings people together. It just means that we're now blending between on and offline. There's very little difference between on and offline for me. I mean, in fact, I'm meeting somebody lunchtime that got in touch via here. I'm just going to go out for fish tacos. A chap called Greg, and it's like that's now how it's going to be. So I think that the community that you build will just be bridging. I mean, so many people in San Diego that I mean, Maggie, who's watching as well. I've met a few times now, and it's great because they're lovely people, you know. And that's what you want, is you want to have your community extending, you know, to the ones that relate to you.
And you've met Andy Lyons, saying that you do make folks feel special while providing information and entertaining content and an opportunity to truly connect. So it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Lovely, thank you, Andy.
And so now with your campaigns, these are, you know, you're bringing people together, sort of in a community sort of way, maybe a temporary community in which you all achieve a goal together, like the Canva Quest.
Exactly, it's a micro community that is built usually outside of the Plus Your Business community, so I can be more inclusive. Yeah.
And when we're talking about that type of community, you're talking actually about a circle build, isn't that right? You gather people, ask them if they're interested, then they get joined into a circle, and then you give them a task that you'd like them to all be involved with. Is that the concept?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the technology, whether it's a circle or whether you set up a private community, it's all about bringing people together. And that's what the technology allows us to do. But picking up on what you were saying earlier, Ronnie, about people sharing the same thing, the same experience and moving through. This is what we're doing with the Academy. We're going to be having levels 2 of the Academy and levels 3 of the Academy as private communities where people will go through and learn the same things and get signed off and then move to the next level. So what I'm doing all the time is exploring how we can use this technology in a way which helps people connect, helps people learn content, makes it easier to collaborate, and I mean, it's really cool. If you look at it, you've got Google Drive, and then you've got YouTube, you've got Hangouts, all of this working together. It's what we're doing every day.
I have a question for you on the Academy thing. It just sort of dawned on me. It may already be in the works, but I don't know. Have you considered when there's a group of people studying or working towards passing a certain level of competency, letting them hang out together and almost do studying together? Is that something that you've considered?
Yeah, I think that they're almost like action learning groups where you basically just get together and bounce stuff around. And I think that that's going to be the experience. Giving people the ability to feel they can. And somebody's talking about empowering. It's empowering people. That's what we want to do. You know, we're not, it's going to be a learning experience rather than training. We will be doing some training if people need training. But if we can give the environment that allows them to feel safe to ask questions and other people can answer, then everybody starts to go up. And this is what we've been doing. But because it's got so much busier on here over the last year in particular, you know, we are with the Academy giving it a bit more structure. And from a corporate point of view, that's going to be useful longer term. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. Hangouts are really good because you can just ping people and they enter them, and then you come and you have a quick conversation. You can solve problems. You can ask it. I remember. My graphics have got better. I'm using Canva, as most of you know. But I remember with Richard Woodin sitting in a Hangouts, and he was taking me through. I can't remember, Pixel R or something like that, and screen sharing and dragging me, kicking and screaming, into using, you know, and doing graphics for events. And it's like he's in South Africa, I was in the UK. And he's educated, and that's it. And then that would happen time and time again. And you just learn the different tools people are using because you can ask the questions easier. And there's no barrier to that. There's no emotional barrier to that.
Well, conceptually, the idea, and Christine, maybe you can chime in on this, is when you have grown up with people, say you've gone to a university, and you've spent multiple years together going through classes and helping each other through the process of it, then you've created a friend for life.
Yeah, have that common, you know. I think Martin's really onto something here. You know, a lot of us, I think, you know, from our past growing up, we have a lot of common memories. There were only 3 channels on TV, so we all watched the same shows. People did the same things. And now in today's society, with so many options, there's chances that we might never experience the same things and then have nothing in common to talk about. So same on Google Plus is, if we can bring them together, oh yes, we have this in common. We participated in Canva Quest, we made a friendship, oh, I met Martin at Social Media Marketing World, now we went to the Hangout in Real Life, we've got something in common, and you start to be able to connect better and along those lines. Would you say that's kind of what you're thinking?
Absolutely, shared stories all the time. And when people are sharing images back from real world back into the space, and then that's again another way of bridging. And I think that the quests and everything we've been doing with that, it gives people something to look at and to apply a lot of the knowledge. And particularly for people if they're not doing business, and this is a great way of them just relating on something for a period of time. If they are doing business, then we usually find, looking at all the Nodex analysis, that's another thing that people can deepen their story and look at their role in it. And all the time, I mean, with everything, it's trying to be as inclusive as possible and making it more, as I said, an enjoyable learning experience. Now, interestingly enough, I mean, we'll talk about Discover Google Plus today, and there's a circle of 225 people. I couldn't start a Hangout. I couldn't start because it's only 100. So
the text kind of hangout, yeah.
That I noticed. I'm at a loss today. I'm like, but guys, I want to connect with you more. I want to kind of like be there. And I know, and I've kind of led it. I could have split it into 2 groups, and I might do that if people want to do it over the next couple of days. But the technology, it's all connected, and everything enhances the next thing. So I think picking up on Greg's bit is using the tech. Greg said, I'm going to pop out and have fish tacos with soon. But it's keeping organized. Like Google Drive, all the time, shared, and Google Drive and private communities are probably my biggest tip for how I work with the team. Giving people the right people access to the right links and then dropping it into a community.
So because this is a 30-minute show and we're coming up near the end of it, I do want to honor everyone's time. Can you try to address what you just pointed out with Greg's comment? He has one that as you get more and more popular on Google Plus and you get more and more of these notifications, you're not just sitting around waiting, you're wondering when will they go away.
Oh, that's just like a question. Yeah, okay, so I can do that very quick. What I do is I start in my Gmail, anything that needs my attention, I go through and start. And then if I click into the other ones, I go to the page and I look, and if it's just a +1 or if it's just a comment, I will make it there and then. The stars mean that I need to come back to it. Then I've got a whole list of stars. This is usually first thing in the morning. And then I go through and look at what needs to happen. So that's my simple tip. But going back, I didn't answer that question at all with my Drive and private communities. I use that alongside. So I have documents of content if I need to cut and paste to give to people, whether it's links and what have you. And the private communities are great if I need to pass something on to somebody. And I'll ping people into the threads if they're better off, dealing with something than I am.
Great.
So yeah.
And just to keep in mind, I mean, you can somewhat control your notifications and conversations. I like to say, if you go out and you participate in 100 conversations, then you're going to have hundreds of notifications. So maybe be a little more choosy where you spend your time. Sure, it's fun sometimes to join in hundreds of conversations, but after a while, you do have other things to do. So I pick and choose which ones I participate in.
Yeah.
Because every time you leave a comment, you're going to get notified of every comment afterwards.
Yeah.
So.
That's one of the wonders of events, isn't it? Okay, no, I just had to say that. So anyways, we're going to have to wrap this thing up. So Martin, thank you so much. Can you give us any, something that's coming up that you want everybody to be aware of besides maybe, actually, tell us what you want everybody to know about.
Well, the 2 big launches, we've got the neighborhoods, which are going to be, the first one's going to be Mountain View, and then we've got several others that we're going to be running as trials. So there's going to be for brand pages up to 120-ish brand pages there. and then we're going to be opening up. We've had hundreds of people request, so I'm going to be getting back. It's all going to happen. I've got about 3 weeks on that. The other thing is the Academy is going to properly launch in probably about 3 weeks' time as well. So that's going to launch with level 2, which will be a private community, and then moving into level 3. And we've got some really super cool, maybe the coolest tools on the planet, and maybe even involved with Hangouts as well. So we've got things planned that's going to tie it all in, make it work for people. So, you know, and then we're going to move into the level 3, and we've got badges. Oh, can I do one more? Badges. We're going to be able to embed, going to be able to give people badges based on circles, and then they can embed using an iframe on their website, as well as having a Chrome extension they can display on Google+. It's all happening.
Fantastic. And in just a couple of weeks, we're going to have Jana Nystrom from Finland be our next influencer on this series. Thank you so much for being with us, Martin Shervington.
Thank you.
And I'll come back and answer some questions on the thread.
All right, yeah, we'll address those questions that you might have had on the thread that we haven't got to, but I'm going to hit the stop broadcast so that we can end on time. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, or whenever you're watching this. We'll see you next time. Bye now.